I'm going to apply for my dream job. It's literally everything that I ever wanted from my professional life. Only one problem. I'm not really that qualified for it. But I have a couple of secret techniques that I think will make everything work out in the end. And if there are any job seekers watching right now, I think that you need to know about them too, whatever your field of choice. But before getting into it, what is this magical, mythical job of sunshine and rainbows? Well, it's with a research institution called forensic architecture. Headquartered in Goldsmiths University in London, it uses open source intelligence, or OSINT, alongside 3D modeling techniques to investigate a series of stories. From historical human rights violations to current human rights violations, government inadequacies to corruption, and lots more. My two personal favorites are their investigations into the Beirut port explosion in 2020 and the tragedy of the Grenfell Towers in London. Now, this video isn't really about them as much as how to increase your employability, but definitely worth checking them out if that's what you're into. You know, before I start to hate them for rejecting me. Nope, secret weapon. I'll be fine. So it's pretty much the perfect blend of everything that I love in life. OSINT, 3D, holding powerful people to account in whatever way I can. It's what this channel is built on. By the way, check out my channel, like, comment, subscribe, notification bell. So obviously, when the position came up, I was intrigued. It's for the position of researcher, which is vague. So I jumped into the job description. This is essential not only for the obvious reasons that you should know what you're applying for, but also because of some of the hacks that it can give you for standing out amongst the flock. More on that later. And it said forensic architecture is looking to work with, quote, an early career researcher, which is great. Total noob here. And experience not being a massive factor is definitely a good thing, or at least on paper, because as any job seekers watching right now are probably aware, even early career jobs require experience now. How can you get experience if all junior roles already require experience? Well, f*** you, that's how. But again, don't worry, solutions. We'll get into it. So limiting mindsets aside, we grind through. And again, on paper, it's all great. The researcher will conduct open source and archival research, analyze and interpret data, participate in the development of cutting-edge investigative tools, connect histories and legacies of colonialism to contemporary environmental conditions, especially in the context of West Africa. To anybody who might be falling asleep right now, just know that it's a dork's paradise, and I am a proud dork. But hold on a second, because being a dork alone is almost certainly not going to get you any job, which in turn begs the question, what will? Well, obviously, qualifications. Do I have these? No. So, as you can see from this, my wonderful resume, my official qualifications leave quite a lot to be desired. Undergraduate degree in philosophy, postgrad degree in diplomatic studies, which made me think that I had a bright career ahead in that, only to faceplant into a different career in customer service. And then insurance, and now in an academic library, which seems to be a pretty significant problem, considering that the job description has the following criteria: master's degree in computational design, architecture, animation, game design, or a relevant field, and working experience in research, simulations, 3D modeling, and animating temporal and spatial environment, preferably in an architectural practice or an academic research environment. But here's a little pro tip for any job seekers who never seem to be qualified enough for the jobs that they want. Nobody is. Or at least not at the wages that they're offering. Listen, experienced and skilled professionals are not willing to work at entry-level pays, which means that these criteria are for the most part BS. So to anybody watching right now who never seems to be qualified enough for the job in question, just apply anyways, with some important caveats that I'll get into soon so as to not waste your time applying for jobs that you won't get. But back to the application, where what I'm gonna do here is a little bit of tactical interpretation to match my existing qualifications with the desired ones as per the criteria. First off, degrees. So I'm not qualified in any of these things, but this? I mean, relevant field. That's relative, and forensic architecture does lots of stuff that is political, from war coverage to border incursions, conflict mapping, and more. And diplomatic studies, I mean, that's certainly political, as is political philosophy, by the way. So in light of that, I will officially categorize both my degrees as a relevant field. Now for experience, where once again, on paper, we got a little bit of a problem. So we're going to have to be slightly creative here. Now, the first thing I notice here is that they want someone with research experience. And whilst it's not the research that they're probably thinking of, my experience as an academic librarian facilitating research, and my experience as an insurance broker, insurance researcher, working on finding the best insurance policies for clients is research nonetheless. So darn, looks like I'm an experienced researcher now. And better yet, within an academic environment too. 3D modeling. Another tough sell, but some of my videos actually did involve modeling. It's not much, but not nothing either. So looks like I'm a media entrepreneur now. Animating temporal and spatial environments. Does this count? I mean, everything comes down to interpretation, and I say it does. So looks like it's in too. Simulations. Let's not talk about that. Okay, so now that we have education and work experience done, looks like we're about ready to finish, right? Wrong. Because this is actually the most important part. Properly analyzing the job description. So if you're watching this, I'm just about going to assume that you've at some point spoken to some boomer who's infinitely confused by the fact that you can't find a job the second that you start looking for one. And if you're like me, you always give the same answer. Competition. Kinda. So I don't know if you've heard about it, but there's this thing called the internet. It literally connects most of the world through techno magic. And because this techno magic is so effective, it also serves to very easily connect job seekers to job creators. Sounds great, right? Oh, my child, my sweet, sweet child. You see, we are Homo sapiens, meaning that no matter how great any new technological invention is, we're bound to f it up. Internet job hunting being a case in point. And the reason for that is the absurd amount of competition that there is, since anyone with an internet connection can easily apply for any job. Meaning that recruiters almost always find themselves feeling like a female supermodel on Tinder. I mean, forensic architecture is a moderately known outlet, and this job application alone has 8,000 likes and 500 shares on Instagram. That's a lot of people. Too many people, honestly. Which in turn forces them to solve this problem by way of our good friend, artificial intelligence, which in turn ranks candidates into hierarchies of preference, with the ones at the top, of course, obtaining a massive advantage. Which is, of course, fantastic, because personally, I've never heard of AI as being anything but perfect and flawless. So much so that most evidence seems to point to AI ranking candidates based on nothing more than keywords, which luckily for us are usually obtained in the job description itself. So back to good old forensic architecture, where admittedly these keywords aren't that hard to decipher, given that there's a whole section dedicated to desired skills and knowledge. These are the main ones that I've found, and given that my knowledge of them varies significantly, I'll categorize them into 4 sections. Stuff that I excel at, Stuff I know nothing or next to nothing about, stuff that I kinda know about, and nice sounding but vague traits. So obviously we're going to want to very heavily emphasize number 1, allude to number 2, and downplay our lack in number 3, while still using the keywords of number 4 to stand out in the algorithm. But one step at a time. First, my strengths. So this is where I gotta highlight my credentials as a media entrepreneur, or as it's really known as, YouTuber, who kinda knows what he's doing editing on Premiere Pro and After Effects. And of course, multiply it by 1,000,000,000. And then pair it with the pretty nice but vague traits and looks like you got one hell of a candidate. But still, our precious algorithm is missing lots of keywords. So we move on to stuff that I kinda excel at. First, Blender. So some of my animations use it, so I guess it's in. I also do data visualization sometimes, so also in. And I've actually done my fair share of videos on West African politics, specifically from the colonial perspective. Check them out, by the way. So I'll add that as well, of course. OSINT, I've actually done that too. A lot of them actually related to Africa. You should check them out on my Medium, by the way, but for the moment, looks like I'm an OSINT journalist now. Which now brings us to the stuff that I know nothing or next to nothing about, which is tricky since we need to mention them for the algorithm whilst not bringing too much attention to our lack of knowledge in that. How do we do that? Well, what if, rather than knowing nothing about them, we're in the development phase of building our skills in a series of areas such as Houdini, Rhino, Unreal Engine, and GIS? Wow, what a happy coincidence. It just happens to be so perfectly aligned with this job and any algorithmic keywords. Lucky! So now that that's done, we're finally ready to put in our application. But we still got a problem. And to properly understand why, let's talk about my good friend, Christine. She's an attractive woman, very attractive, I'd venture to say, who's got lots of suitors. Yet she's single and not really by choice. It's not one of those things, which might seem to be a little bit odd. I mean, if you have so much choice, why not choose the best option and move along? And the answer to that is that, weirdly enough, having too much choice can actually make deciding all the more difficult sometimes. I mean, if something isn't up to your very specific standards, you'll just wait for more suitors. Okay, so what's this loser stuff? How is any of this relevant? Well, simple, because I want you to make your damn choice, Christine. Christine doesn't actually exist. Me having friends? Please. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because companies have pretty much the same problem in their hands as my mythical friend. Meaning that you could literally do everything right, and if you don't do something to really stand out, like creating a YouTube video, for example, you're most likely going to have problems. Listen, if the fact that I had to make a 15-minute video jumping through a bunch of hoops for one application isn't proof enough that the modern job market is an existential nightmare, then I'm sure experience will teach you that. Unless you're unfathomably lucky, in which case I'm not jealous at all. So take this as a word of advice from someone who has been through the ringer plenty of times. Believe me, you may make it or you may not make it. That's life. Uncertainty upon uncertainty upon uncertainty. But one thing that you should definitely not do is give up. So I'm a very cynical person. I don't think that trying to succeed means that you will succeed. You might just have to endure infinite amounts of rejection and hurt, only to arrive nowhere nonetheless. But is all that pain, all that anguish worth it for just that small chance that you can maybe someday arrive at your destination? Or even if you don't arrive, to not lie awake at night wondering how things will be different if you did? Well, I say that it is, and because of that, I applied for my dream job, and I think that you should too. Wait, what? I'm gonna get auto-rejected, aren't I? Well, looks like I'm British now.